It is time for us to become a virus or a bacteria and try to destroy the world. Welcome to What the Math. Today I'm taking a look at a game called Plague Inc. Evolved. This is a game that actually has been around for a few years now, but has now received a new release that essentially turns it into a really complex biological simulator that I think would be great for any biology classroom, but also for anyone who actually enjoys unusual, interesting, and challenging games. Anyway, let's talk about it in a little bit more detail, and welcome. So if you have never played this game, you actually need to absolutely play it because it's a must play and it's super fun. But if you have played this game, I'm gonna just start with a few improvements and a few additions. So with the exception of Scenario Creator, which basically allows you to create your own scenarios, your own games, and your own challenging levels that you can then send to your friends, it also now has a multiplayer option where you can play against one friend or I guess enemy and try to defeat them and try to be a more virus or more bacterial. Does that make sense? I don't know. Let's find out. Anyway, so let's go into single player. I'm going to show you how it looks or what the game looks like and how it changed. There's a few things here that are a little bit different, things like speed run. There's obviously the tutorial that you may want to do. But what I really like is, well, first of all, there's custom scenarios, but also there's official scenarios now which are a little bit different from the original game. So things like Santa's Little Helper. This is where you have the world is dark and gloomy and Santa's coming to town and you have to basically destroy the world as a Santa. There's also things like Black Death, and there's a lot of other things that are still locked for me because I haven't really completed the previous levels. But we're going to go into the main game, and I'll show you what are various options for you here. So you always start with bacteria. This is actually the easiest level, and so here you're playing as a bacteria that needs to evolve and try to take over the world and basically kill everyone. But the interesting part or the fun part is that it actually is very challenging and you're dealing with real life simulation of a bacteria propagation. As you progress, it gets a little bit more difficult, so then you get virus, which is different from bacteria in that it actually evolves by itself and really fast, and also it is a little bit more difficult to control. Then you get fungus, Murex worm, or basically a worm that is in your brain, a DNA parasite, a prion, which is a topic that is actually worth exploring on its own because this is something that's really dangerous and kind of rare, but is kind of scary. This is essentially what mad cow disease is. A necrovirus, this is sort of similar to a plague. Nanovirus is a microscopic virus that is even smaller than usual. And finally, you have a bioweapon. I haven't really completed this game yet. Or actually, no, I have completed it once. But as you complete it, you get sort of the experience points that you can then spend on upgrading your bacteria or your virus. So let's just start with this first one. We're gonna go in here, and this is where you get to modify your bacteria. If you've actually completed the game before, you can insert various genes and you can basically boost your survival chances. I don't have anything unlocked yet, so actually no, that means I haven't finished the game yet. But anyway, moving on. The difficulty mode, even though normal will be hard, casual is the easiest, and Mega Brutal is ridiculously difficult. But I go for normal just because I just want to show you what how this works and what this game is all about. You get to name your virus, and mine is going to be, of course, mathematics or math, just math. Math virus. All right, so this is how the game or what the game looks like once you start it, and how it's going to be. Basically what the screen that you'll be looking at for the next 10 or so minutes. Now, the first step is to choose your location. Choose where the first spread starts. Usually, in real world, it starts in this region. So most likely China. Sometimes there's certain pathogens that start from Africa. And I think as a teacher, you may actually want to discuss this. So, you know, why and where and how and what. I'm going to start with India because this is where math originated. And here we go. First infection in India. Meth begins in India. That's hilarious. Meth has infected its first human. Weak but used to hot temperatures, it must evolve using DNA points to infect more people. And so this is where the game gets interesting. So as you click on these bubbles, you collect DNA, and you'll notice there's airplanes and there's boats everywhere. That's basically things or people going around the world, and if an infected person goes to a different country, you will infect this country. Now currently there's only 3 infections, not so many. Actually it says 7. Depending on the region you're in, you need to have a certain evolutionary advantage. So we've infected a lot of people, and this is actually because India is a developing country. It doesn't really have... Oh yeah, by the way, the game now is in 3D. You can actually move around the world in 3 dimensions, but you may want to actually see the world from this perspective because it's easier to pop the bubbles. Anyway, so as a third world country, India will actually not have... once in a while you'll get news events. These are just to give gaming a little bit of flavor. And so as a third world country, India will not have much in terms of medicine, and it will be much easier to infect them. But what you can do now is you can actually go into, you can actually check out the India first. So this is the Indian world in a nutshell. So there's a picture here. There's the features of this country. It says hot, humid. It also says that it's a rural country. So if you decide to spread through animals, you'll actually infect everyone faster. I'm going to show you how this works in a second. It also shows that it has land border, which are open, ports and airports. So easier to infect people. And there's no medical research right now. There's this many people and this many infected and 0 dead. We haven't killed anyone yet. This is the research that will activate as soon as someone detects you, and they will try to cure you. But we're going to go into here. This is the evolutionary progression of your bacteria. So this is all about our bacteria, shows how severe we are, how lethal we are, how much people we have infected. And this is where you get to update your bacteria a little bit. So there's 3 things you can do. Transmission, this is how fast you spread. Symptoms, this is essentially the things that make your bacteria noticeable, and specifically things that will most likely kill people. And finally, abilities, this is special features like, for example, being able to resist heat or cold, being able to resist drugs, being able to just be more tough. This is actually a bacterial shell that protects it against all climates. Now we're going to start with transmission, and because this is a rural country and it's humid, we're going to actually be more realistic. And okay, I was gonna go for mosquitoes, but that doesn't make sense because mosquitoes and bacteria don't generally spread. But you know what, why not? This is bacteria, mathematical bacteria that spreads through mosquitoes. We're gonna evolve this, and now if we go back, you'll notice that it starts spreading a lot faster. It's going to spread a lot faster now. It will also possibly spread through the borders to other countries nearby, including China, Southeast Asia, Pakistan, and so on. When we reach the cold countries, we may actually want to think of how to do this faster using something else. Like, for example, we actually may want to evolve the ability to resist heat and resist cold. So let's do that right now. We're going to have 2 new abilities. We're going to spread a lot faster because we now are able to resist heat and cold. And the really cool thing about this particular title, or the improved title, is that it has become really advanced. There's a lot more randomization. There's a lot more chances for you to be detected or to be cured faster. And even though it actually started as an iPhone app and was really simple before, now it actually feels like a full game. There's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of scenarios. There's even some scenarios now that tie this game in with a movie. Specifically here, we're talking about Planet of the Apes, and I'm going to show it to you once I finish this level. But anyway, let's actually keep infecting people, and let's see how this spreads. And sometimes you will actually mutate automatically. This is a real-life representation of bacteria and viruses do this a lot faster. And right now we've actually evolved a symptom. Math has mutated and developed the cyst symptom using the DNA points. Now, if you want to play this more realistically, you just kind of ignore this. But I would actually like to go here and disable this for now, because this is a way for them to detect me. So I'm going to devolve and actually get 2 points from it as well, because I would like to stay undetected for now. If you actually get detected, and I'll show you this to you once we infect more countries, they will start developing a cure against you. and this may actually mean that you will not be able to win the game. Now, we've infected a new country here. We're talking about countries like Thailand, Myanmar, Vietnam, and so on. So this is Southeast Asia. And and now we've also infected Indonesia and Papua New Guinea as well. So as you spread through various worlds and various countries, you will actually amass more DNA that you can then use to spread even faster. And if I look at India now, you'll see that there's red dots popping up everywhere because we're now infecting millions of people. Okay, new event. Airplanes use new sterilization air filters. That means it's going to be a little bit harder for us to spread through airplanes, which we should have done earlier. So it might be a little bit difficult to infect certain countries, like, for example, Greenland or New Zealand, which are really, really far away, don't have much population. So you do have to watch this boat right here. So you do have to try to infect them sooner than later. But we've now infected something like 1 billion people, over 1 billion people, an entire continent here. Entire India is essentially there you go. Everyone is infected. The entire India is infected. But we haven't killed anyone yet, which is good. So this is why they don't really know that we exist yet. And I think this represents a really, really good tie-in with the real-life situation where there are certain viruses and certain bacteria that are actually absolutely safe to us and everyone has them. There's actually a lot of bacteria in our stomach, in our guts, that we all have, and this bacteria has most likely spread in a similar fashion sometime earlier in history, and it is actually good for us. It actually is really, really necessary for us to process food and to survive. But at some point, we're actually going to start involving dangerous symptoms and turn into something more like, at first it will be similar to herpes, where we just have a visible symptom, and then we might actually become a deadly bacteria that will actually annihilate the humanity. And this is what we're headed toward here. This is basically the goal of the game. It is a very sinister goal, but it's actually what makes this game challenging and fun, because you will notice that as the humans actually detect us, and as we are being researched, or the cure for our disease is being researched, it will get actually very challenging, and at some point they may actually be able to eliminate you completely, which is a real-life simulation. So countries like USA and Canada, for example, will be very difficult to infect. You'll notice there's only, look at that, only 5 infected, because these are developed countries with really advanced healthcare. And then countries like, for example, Egypt is infected a lot faster. Oh, I finally got to New Zealand. Yay! This is usually one of the more difficult countries to get to, and so is Greenland. We still haven't gotten there yet. Greenland and Iceland. And you can see there's a sudden spread across Africa here, and this is kind of similar to how Ebola spread a few months ago in 2015. Essentially, oh, I got a symptom. I have to disable it. Let's devolve this, because otherwise we'll get detected. And let's go here and increase our transmission through air. Anyway, so yeah, Ebola virus started spreading in Africa in a very similar fashion, where people just moved across border, and as they moved across border, the virus followed them. So you'll notice that from Egypt, it actually spread to a few other countries, including Libya and Sudan, and will eventually reach the entire Africa. It actually spread everywhere. And what you'll notice here is that most of the, or actually all of the developing countries are essentially completely infected. They're the ones that have red color on them. But countries like United States, or I guess, what else do we have here? New Zealand, are barely infected, because these are developed countries that have quite advanced Medicare, so they are able to prevent people from being infected too fast. So right now in the US, we only have about 80,000 people infected, and that's already because I've actually upgraded my ability to infect developed countries. Right here it says pathogen develops a resistance to antibiotics, increasing effectiveness in wealthy countries. Without this upgrade, you'll actually be barely able to infect developed countries like United States, and it will actually be relatively challenging. But another interesting phenomenon here is actually, you notice that as soon as you infect a few people, it becomes exponential. This is exponential population growth. So suddenly there's so many more infected, because basically with more infected around, you'll have a higher chance of being infected. And that, of course, is a very known phenomenon as well, and is something worth exploring and investigating, because right here, the graph actually, it kind of looks like this. It goes up really fast and then it slows down and sort of levels out at the end. So this is exactly what you see here in the US until everyone gets infected. And what is this country that... Oh, this is Peru. Peru is the last South American country that actually is not infected, and so is Russia. Russia is right now the healthiest place to be, even healthier than Canada. But we've now, I think, infected every country. We can actually check that. Okay, we haven't infected Baltic states yet. This is the last country that's right here in this region that we haven't infected yet, but everyone else is good to go. So as soon as we infect the Baltic states, we're actually going to start evolving symptoms that will essentially make us deadly. And it looks like we've actually infected all of the countries. We're just going to wait for all of them to turn red before we start developing deadly symptoms. So Russia is being covered in red spots. Greenland is being difficult, and so is Iceland. So let's go in here and actually go into abilities and increase our chance of survival in cold. So this will give us, there we go, it went up now. It will give us a chance to infect people a little bit faster, both in Greenland, Iceland, and of course Russia, because these are cold climates. And I think now we actually are going to start evolving our symptoms, and this was the first symptom that automatically evolved. Math causes nausea, which I think is a pretty fair description for some of you. Yes, math will cause nausea, so we'll now actually start evolving symptoms. So we're going to go in here, and let's look at what we have. So we have nausea, we have coughing, rash, anemia, cysts, and insomnia. I think the math does cause insomnia, and let's actually do coughing, because this will increase infection chance as well. And from there we can actually start evolving. So this is a severity level that has increased. From here we can actually start evolving something a little bit more dangerous as well. So let's start with this and let's see how this goes. And it says, look at that, we already got discovered. New minor disease is spreading. In a normal checkup, doctor discovered math. And so you'll notice that as soon as this happens, the world will actually start working on a cure. And for some reason, it actually started in Poland. Poland is the first to start working on a cure. It's already 1% researched. And here you can actually check how this is going for them. We can go into the research. It says when the research will be finished, who is going to be researching the cure, and so on and so forth. And if this happens, you essentially may lose the game, but we're going to prevent that from happening by doing the following. We're actually going to start, well, basically killing everyone. We're just going to make them vomit from math, and let's give them the math diarrhea as well. And you'll notice that the lethality actually went up. So we now actually are a little bit more deadly than before, and we're going to start killing people. First death in India. First death from math has been confirmed in India. Probably true. Probably actually did happen. Bad luck or the beginning of something. Most likely beginning of something really, really scary. Canada shuts down airports because of math. All right, awesome. So we're now on a roll. We're going to actually... We've been placed on WHO list. So let's start getting more deadly here. We're going to evolve respiratory symptoms. We're actually going to try to get a little bit more scary and deadly. Let's see. Okay, the research is actually advancing super fast, and you'll notice these bubbles popping up, and this is to stop the research from progressing too fast. Now what we need to do is projectile vomiting combo. That's math for you. Math does cause that. And what you want to do is decrease this as fast as possible, but I think I may actually lose this. Math is lethal. Yes, it is. Oh boy, I may end up losing this because it's not killing people fast enough. Math is not as effective at killing people. Anarchist bomb in Japan. That's because of the... we're causing chaos in different countries now. Japan breaks down. Paranoia symptoms mutated. So math now causes paranoia, but I think we may actually... Yeah, we're going to end up losing this game because we haven't evolved some of the more necessary symptoms that usually cause people to collapse sooner. But that's okay. I mean, math should not really destroy the world, right? Math should save the world. But so yeah, we're about to... the cure is about to be researched. 95% complete, and as soon as this happens, this is what you'll notice. Cure for Math is complete. It's now going to be spread worldwide, and you'll notice that everything will now turn blue. And this is essentially where, for you as a virus or as a bacteria, math to be eradicated. That's awesome. So this is where your game is over. Now, obviously, it's possible to finish this game if you actually manage to destroy the world, but I decided to be nice and not do so. So this is a pretty awesome game overall. I think this is actually absolutely brilliant in the way it actually portrays spread of viruses and bacteria, and I think it's actually really interesting for a classroom or just a person that likes biology. So this is how we spread around the world. You'll notice that it all started in India. And as we advance through days and through time, it suddenly is going to explode, and there we go. Started spreading everywhere else. And this is how we infected the whole world, but then as soon as we became dangerous and deadly, unfortunately the world eradicated us. Now, there's obviously things like official scenarios and custom scenarios which will actually modify this game a little bit, making it a little bit challenging, a little bit more fun. But there's also actually this movie tie-in with the Planet of the Apes, specifically Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, where you get to play as a simian flu. You actually can create a virus that will turn people into apes, and then you can spread your apes using a completely new set of skills. And I'm gonna just quickly show you what it looks like. You will notice that you do have a very different set of skills. So there's a bad transmission, which wasn't in the other bacteria. There's also things like very different symptoms. So these are completely different skills. And of course, abilities. Here you actually can tell your apes to walk somewhere, not just spread them through ships or airplanes, but manually tell them to walk somewhere, and they'll actually infect people where they go. So this is essentially, oh yeah, and the music is different. The music is tied in with the movie. So this is essentially the game in a nutshell. And I personally think that Plague Inc. Evolved is actually an absolutely brilliant game. It's a must-have, and if you still haven't tried it, you definitely have to go and try it. And if you have played it, consider using this as a teaching tool or to learn something yourself. Anyway, so this is the game in a nutshell. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and if you did, check out some of the other games in education I took a look at in the past. Also, subscribe for more videos, and make sure to like this video if you actually enjoyed it. And anyway, thank you so much for watching, and as always, game you guys later, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.